Oh, hey, Ethan.
Oh, hey, Julia.
Hey.
And hey, everybody else. Welcome to day 4 of our virtual youth retreat. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm really excited about today. Today, our theme is pride and self-discovery. And to talk about that, we are going to talk about maybe some of the issues surrounding the LGBTQIA plus community, or maybe some things about body positivity, some really interesting topics. And to help us with that, we have an amazing speaker today. We have a current seminarian at Sewanee School of Theology, Simeon Bruce, and they are also very active in community engagement and organization, and they're a licensed carpenter. So we're going to hear from them, and that's going to be awesome. And then today's word of the day is Cynefin, a place where a person or animal feels it ought to live in or belong. It is where nature around you feels right and welcoming. So we think this word really fits with today's themes of pride and self-discovery, and we're going to expand on that a little bit later when we meet tonight. So today's songs are Unconditional Love, To Make You Feel My Love, and we have a very special performance of Born This Way, an acoustic version. It's going to be a lot of fun. So that's what we got going for today, and without further ado, let's get into our first song. Shatters and the stars appear, and there's no one there to dry your tears. I could hold you for a million years to make you feel my love. I know you haven't made your mind up yet, but I would never do you wrong. I've known it from the moment that we met. No doubt in my mind where you belong. I go hungry, I go black and blue. I go crawling down the avenue. Oh, there's nothing that I wouldn't do to make you feel my love. The storms are raging on the rolling sea and on the highway of regret. The winds have changed, are blowing wild and free, and you ain't seen nothing like me yet. I could make you happy, make your dreams come true. Nothing that I wouldn't do. Go to the ends of the earth for you to make you feel my love. To make you feel my love.
Hey everybody, my name is Simeon Bruce. I use they, them pronouns, and I am an activist, educator, and carpenter here in Atlanta. I'm 27 years old, and today I'm talking about self-discovery. And as a non-binary trans person, I've got some experience with the work of self-discovery. And the main thing I've learned about it is that ultimately self-discovery cannot be rushed. It's a process. You can't just wake up one morning and say, today I'm going to learn everything there is to know about myself. Because part of getting to know yourself is the slow process of meeting the different kind of person you are in all the different kind of situations you face throughout your life over time. One of my favorite theologians, Karl Rahner, has a way of speaking about this that I really love. Karl Rahner was a Jesuit theologian in the 20th century. Jesuits are a kind of monk in the Catholic Church, just like we in the Episcopal Church also have monks and nuns. And so what does Rahner have to say about self-discovery? He talks about the fact that we as human beings cannot escape the question that is ourselves. He argues that each of us is to ourselves a question. We are mysteries to ourselves. We don't ultimately know ourselves because, Rahner says, we can't. And the reason that we can't is that the answer to who we are is one that cannot be spoken, but only revealed or lived. And what Rahner means by this is that it doesn't really make any difference who I say that I am, right? I can say anything about myself. And it isn't true until I live it or until I experience it. I have no idea what kind of person I am until I become responsible for choices that reveal the truth of who I am. And there's a lot of responsibility to this. Rahner is pointing out that who we are is the product of choices we make, which means that the kind of choices we make really matter. That can be scary because it means taking responsibility for ourselves. It means taking a long, hard look at the way we live and recognizing we can't say our choices aren't our fault. Having a reason for something isn't the same as having an excuse. It is also, however, incredibly freeing. As the Black poet Audre Lorde put it, I am my own best work. It means that particularly as young people, we have the opportunity to decide now what kind of lives we want to live. The work of self-discovery is therefore the work of making choices over time about the kind of person we want to discover ourselves to be. The work of self-discovery is also about taking the time to have experiences. When I graduated high school, I knew that I needed to continue to be some sort of student. I didn't at that time know what kind of student I should be. So first I was a college student, then I lived and worked at a monastery and became a student of how to be a good monastic and a good Christian. And later, I became a student of carpentry. Each of these different situations has taught me more about myself. I've had the opportunity to have the answer to a lot of questions about myself revealed or lived. Who is Simeon the college student? Who is Simeon the monastic? Who is Simeon the carpenter? I know because I've had the experience of being these different selves. Not every one of them has become an important part of the larger work of Simeon the human being that I am in the process of living into. Some of these selves are ones that I lived for a little while and then realized I needed to let go of. Some of them, though, have surprised me. One of those surprising selves has been Simeon the carpenter. I grew up in a family that heavily devalued working class people, and especially people who work with their hands. I was exposed to the sort of rhetoric that made it seem like people who became carpenters or plumbers or garbage collectors or electricians or cooks occupied these jobs because they couldn't get a job that was better. My family made it seem like anyone who did as well in school as I did certainly would never want to work with their hands. And pretty much all of that turned out not to be true. I started doing some woodworking and carpentry projects as a hobby at one point, and it turned out I loved working with my hands so much that I wanted to become a carpenter. I learned that the classist idea that what carpenters do doesn't require any intelligence was totally false. It takes a lot of training and smarts to build other people's houses. Going to carpentry school was no joke. And When I work, I'm responsible for the safety and comfort of others, which is a responsibility that's really big and that I take very seriously. I've had other jobs that I'm sure my parents and others of their social status thought were better, but to be honest, they weren't better for me. I hated them. I hated the summer I spent answering phones for a law firm in DC. I made a ton of money, but I didn't have a sense that what I was doing was really helping people. As a carpenter, though, I get to meet people right where they're at, in their very homes, and help them with problems that feel real and immediate. When an elderly woman from my church calls me and asks if I can make her front porch steps safer, and I help her with that, I'm performing a task that helps to keep people I care about safe. Knowing that Mrs. Selby is not going to fall and break her hip just trying to get into her house is a big relief to me. And my carpentry skills made that possible. I'm not making the kind of money that my parents would like me to, but Simeon the carpenter has surprised me by becoming a part of Simeon the human being in a way that makes me care more about being helpful than about making a certain amount of money. And one last thing I want to say about self-discovery is that it doesn't end. It's not like now that I've met Simeon the college student and Simeon the monastic and Simeon the carpenter, I've done all the learning. Those are all the Simeons. That's not true. There's the Simeons I've met already, but there's all the Simeons I haven't met yet. I'm still meeting Simeon the 27-year-old. I haven't met Simeon the 28-year-old. I have no idea what Simeon the 40-year-old will be like. I think it's really important to think about the fact that you're building who you are with the choices that you make, not just right now today, but for the rest of your life. You have the rest of your life to get to know yourself. You have the rest of your life to get to know the person God created you to be. And that's part of the beauty of it. Only God knows who God created you to be. As the psalmist says, "You knit me together in my mother's womb. You know my inmost being." God is the only one who knows who Simeon the human being as a whole is. And I'm in this process journeying together alongside God, meeting all the different Simeons that there are, seeing the kind of person that I have the capacity to be, the capacity that God has given me to be. And as I discover each of these new selves, I discover something new about God's creation, about God's will for the world and God's will for myself. That's important, and it's really exciting. And it's not going to be over anytime soon. So if I make mistakes, there's tomorrow. And if I do something well, I have the opportunity to repeat it and do it better. God never stops showing up in my life and teaching me more about the kind of person, both that I want to be and that I was made to be. So every day, I challenge myself to ask, who is Simeon today? Maybe today I'm a grumpy Simeon, but nevertheless a Simeon who did something nice for their housemate. That's an okay Simeon to be. Maybe tomorrow I'll be a totally different Simeon altogether. And that's all part of the process. My job is just to keep asking questions and recognizing that the answers aren't ones that I speak. The answers are ones that I live.
Hey everybody, Ethan here. Thank you for joining us today on day 4 of our virtual youth retreat. So today I'm going to walk you through our craft that we're going to be doing in small group. And I think this activity is really great for a lot of reasons, but it's super fun and easy and you get to be a little creative with it. So I don't know if any of y'all have ever heard of Keith Haring before, but he He's a famous artist, and I'm a big fan. And so he draws these little figures. This is what he's best known for. I have 2 t-shirts that I can show you with his designs on it. So this is one of them, and they're usually these little guys dancing and doing different motions. And then I also have this one here. So you kind of get an idea of what the figures look like. So what we're gonna be doing today requires one piece of blank paper. It requires some colored pencils. I went out and got some of these Twistables because they're my favorite. And then if you need a reference photo, that's good, but I'll make sure to show you these one more time and before we get started with the activity. So what we're gonna be doing basically is we're gonna be drawing one of these figures, and you'll use a neutral color to draw it, not a color that's neutral to you, not necessarily one that's like a black or brown or tan or anything like that, to draw the outline of the figure. And then what we're going to be doing is we're going to take a couple different colors and we're going to assign them to different emotions or feelings. And those colors are going to represent that. And then we're going to color in our figure, we're going to color where in our body we tend to feel those emotions. So the idea is to kind of get a feel for how we experience things and maybe learn a little bit about how other people may experience different feelings. So I'm gonna go ahead and start doing my drawing and show y'all how this works. All right, everybody, so let's get started. I have decided for my drawing that I am going to pick this guy right here. I like the little Pharaoh kind of dance he's doing there. And for my neutral color, I'm going to use this cool blue one, just kind of like the picture. I'm a little more interested in using some other colors to describe some of the other feelings. So here I go, and I will tell y'all straight up that I am not the greatest artist of all time. But that is okay. That is not what this is about. All right, so there's my basic outline of my Keith Haring figure. I think I did an okay job at making that guy. And y'all can pick any of these that you want. So feel free to use this as a reference, like I said, or you can just Google Keith Haring and you'll find tons of these little guys. So next thing we're going to do is we're gonna color him in with some colors and on specific places on him where we kind of feel certain emotions, and maybe we even think of this color as representing that emotion. So for me, I can't tell you exactly why, but I know that when I feel anxious, usually that kind of feels like a yellow or orange experience to me, so I'm going to use this yellow one right here. And I also know that when I feel anxious, I tend to feel it right in my gut a lot of the times. I know that's not entirely uncommon. And for me to represent that, and you can just color it in if you want, but I think I want to incorporate this X. So I'm going to put an X right there in this color. Right there in the kind of the belly area. That gold, yellow. And then I'll do a little block over here just to, and if y'all would do this too, that'd be really helpful for small groups, because we can just do a little block here and use this as a key to help describe to other people what we were thinking when we did this. So for me, I'm gonna write anxiety right there next to my yellow swatch. And then sometimes I think of, you know, it's probably a little cliche, but that kind of feeling of like love or happiness. I know it always makes me smile when I'm in those kinds of situations, and I kind of feel that in my cheeks, you know, my cheeks tighten up and that kind of thing. So I'll do that feeling right here, give them some rosy cheeks. And I'll put that in my key right here. And I'll write love / happiness. Not exactly the easiest to write with these colored pencils. They're a lot better for drawing. And you know, sometimes, you know, if we're going to go back to maybe another more negative emotion, I know that I sometimes will feel like loneliness or sadness. I kind of feel in my chest. It kind of feels like that builds up there for me. And again, you can just color things in, but I'm kind of enjoying using some symbolism here. So I'm going to draw a heart there in this kind of dark purpley color, and then that'll kind of represent that loneliness feeling for me. I'll do one more just to make extra sure that we're all getting that idea here, and so that y'all can hear my experience with this. And I'm thinking that I'll do stress. And stress, I think, kind of manifests for me in my neck a lot of the times. And for that, I'm gonna go ahead and use this kind of reddish one right here. I think that'll be good. Kind of get across what I'm putting down. It's a little more orangey, but that's okay too. I'll just draw it like that. Oh no, it's more red than I thought. It's right there. And like I said, y'all can do whatever you want with this in terms of what you draw and how you draw it. For me personally, these colors do, I think, represent a lot of how I kind of feel in those scenarios, and these shapes kind of remind me of a little bit more of what the feeling is outside of just the color representation. It gives me some symbolic representation as well. And I think that the main point of this is that you get this in a place where it feels right for you, into where you can help other people understand how you might be feeling. So let's talk a little bit more about that. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed doing that. Here's what my final product looks like. I labeled it Somatic Emotions Map, just so that I would be able to hold on to this and maybe remember what exactly I was feeling this day and everything like that. I kind of think that this right here is a good reminder for me of identifying emotions, which is something that's super important, and we're going to talk more about later in small groups. But I labeled it, like I said, Somatic Emotions Map. So I just want to tell you real quick what that kind of means. So when we say somatic emotions, we're recognizing the feeling of emotions, which, we process in our head. It's a brain thing for the most part. But when we're saying somatic here, that kind of just refers to where in the body, where these feelings kind of manifest. And I know that the interesting thing about this is that we're all going to have different answers to this. If two people have anxiety, one person might put it in their hands because they bite their nails or something like that, or one person might put it in their head because it gives them a headache, or like I put it in my stomach because I know it always kind of gives me those like bad butterflies, if you want to call it that. But I really hope that y'all enjoy doing this as much as I did, and I look forward to discussing this with you after we all do it in small groups. Thanks so much for following along with me there, and I'm looking forward to tomorrow. Thanks, guys.